Well, good morning and welcome to Rambles with the Sister Estelle. I There's too much reflection there. You'll have to excuse that I'm not in my head covering. If anybody gets turned on by this, that's your problem. You need a therapist. Today I wanted to talk about, well, a little town, St. Bernice, Indiana, where I lived for 8 years of my childhood. An interesting little town, in some ways a blessing, and in other ways it could have been a Stephen King novel. Well, that's okay. Today is about Sister Keith. To be honest, Sister Reed Keith. She outlived two husbands. Her first husband was a banker in town. Her second was the town's doctor. Sister Keith was one of the original founders of the Nazarene Church, a breakaway from the Wesleyans. Now, in this town as a child, most of my playmates were in their 60s and 70s. Sister Keith was very wise. She only had one child that died very young, but she was full of world knowledge. Her first husband, Mr. Reed, was the town banker. He had a couple of dealings with some bank robbers and his car being shot up. And from there, Sister Keith very cautiously, after his death and with an inheritance, started, and even before his death, creating her home. As a child, I had no idea what she had done with her home. She had bought Tiffany, and Stickley. She furnished out her home exactly the way she wanted it. And in her attic were duplicates and triplicates of every item within the house. Now, my interactions with Sister Keith, I would go down to visit. She was very proper and very loving. She had seen the sorrows, lived through them, and found a way to adjust in them. It's something that comes with age. You have memories, not all good, not all bad, but they're your memories. Now, I'm going to give you an example of Sister Keith. I was growing up in this town. Yes, I smoke, so get over it. Being the Nazarene preacher's kid, and that always held with it a degree of judgment of being other. One day in elementary school, the thing went out. I was joking with a classmate, and I said he had gone skinny dipping with a certain girl that he found to be precious. Well, I was immediately sent to the principal's office and told I was a very bad example for being a preacher's kid and given a sound paddling. When I replied to the principal, I was just trying to be like everyone else, he cried. At that moment, he understood. I was being held to a higher standard than a child should be expected to uphold. Well, it was in a week's time. Sister Keith called down to the parsonage and asked if I could come up and help pick up persimmons from her persimmon tree. Well, John, the principal, who knew Sister Keith, was there also. Sister Keith had fixed, what was it? Lemonade. And the three of us sat around the table, and I thought it was just conversation and such. And at a point, Sister Keith handed me a bag to go out and pick up persimmons off the ground. Well, I did as she asked because it was a simple thing. I was closer to the ground than she. And then she came to the back door and opened the screen door and said, "Why don't you come back in? I've got a bit of cake for us to share." At that point, Sister Keith had explained to Principal John that I was just a child trying to be a child, and that I was special in ways that people would someday know. Sister Keith died. No heirs. I did not get to attend her auction, of which I gather there may have been a good bit of pence and paper involved with it, for in her attic were still crated Tiffany lamps, bronzes, Stickley furniture, everything she would need to replace anything that was broken and could not be repaired. Sister Keith will always have a place within my heart. Now you're wondering about, I'm a religious, quote, I hate that word, faith sister. In small towns, in the older religions, children were raised to respect their elders. In school, every teacher was called Miss. Miss Heaton, Miss Reed, Miss Myers. That was respect. Now, in the community of St. Bernice, if it be female, it would be Sister Keith. Male, Brother Ronnie. I'll still have to get to Grandma and Grandpa Ferguson and Grandma and Grandpa Diebold. No, they weren't blood relatives, but it was also a title they felt of me as a child to be protected. And there were others that did not enjoy protecting, but used the child. Well, this is a first, and I think I'll leave it here. Maybe I'll post it on my Facebook, I don't know. But I enjoy my eastern window here, where I can watch all sorts of creation and wildlife. Sit, remember, talk with the Creator, and creation comes to me in its voice, its beauty, and the dynamite, the mess of my house. Blessings be upon and with all of you. Yes, even you. So, until next time I get brave enough to put my face on the screen, be good and don't do anything I haven't.